What's up, everyone? I hope you are all doing well. Today, I want to start off by offering you a cigarette. I don't really have one, but what do you say? Well, it doesn't really matter what your answer is because I'm going to tell you a story anyway. I presume most of us have been offered a cigarette at some point. If not, it's almost certain that you'll be offered something similar eventually, perhaps in the form of a new trend like vaping or whatever new stimulant comes along. And what's the real harm in it? I mean, you can stop whenever you want, right? But that's exactly where our conundrum lies, in false hope. Imagine I give you a cigarette, but on the condition that if you start, you're not allowed to stop. You'll have to smoke it until the day you die. Most of us, if not all, would subsequently refuse. The reason is simple. We always tell ourselves that we'll quit one day. And when that day finally comes, we say, okay, this is my last cigarette. And we believe it with all our heart. And that's when, ironically, you'll have the most euphoric cigarette of your life. You take a drag and you say to yourself, how could I possibly give this up? This is amazing. And so the cycle continues. The belief that you'll stop someday is, ironically, the very thing that keeps you from ever quitting. So perhaps to prevent ourselves from smoking, we shouldn't focus on stopping, but rather on abandoning the very attempt to stop. And even better, never to start with false solutions for future problems. And so what am I really getting at here? Or better yet, what is Žižek getting at in the book of The Courage of Hopelessness? Well, what Žižek really wants to point out is how we use false hopes and solutions to comfort ourselves, and how these very illusions keep us from actually solving the problems at hand. His book can be a bit confusing, but I'll try to break down some of the most interesting topics he touches on, including everything from Marxism to religion and terrorism. But first off, thank you for clicking on the video. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. It really helps the channel a lot. Let's start off with a bit of Marxism. This is Žižek we're talking about after all. He gives us a brilliant quote from George Orwell, who expressed similar feelings about the illusion of hope. We all rail against class distinctions, but very few people seriously want to abolish them. Here you come upon the important fact that every revolutionary opinion draws part of its strength from a secret conviction that nothing can be changed. This passage captures Orwell's deep ambivalence towards the British middle class and their relationship towards socialism. He highlights a powerful psychological contradiction. Many who talk about revolution or change do so with an unconscious belief that real transformation is either impossible or would threaten their own sense of superiority. And how true is that? Not just in a revolutionary or political sense, but also in our own personal psychology. Take this example. The political left hates Trump, but the worst thing Trump could possibly do is something truly good, something against their expectations, something even they themselves would approve of. That kind of act would create discomfort because it threatens their own moral high ground, because this would mean that they lose their superiority. From this, Žižek goes on to argue that the left, and particularly neoliberalism, has been compromised. They've come to the belief that capitalism is the only viable solution. This, of course, echoes the same narrative found in Mark Fisher's work, especially that in Capitalist Realism. By the way, I've made videos on those ideas. Do check them out if you are interested in learning more. Žižek loves to hammer home the point of ideology. For him, ideology isn't just a lens through which we view the world. It's something far more powerful. It actively shapes reality itself. So when we look at this from a Marxist perspective and through Žižek's view of ideology, the following contradiction becomes clear. In today's modern capitalist economy, the left and neoliberalism like to talk about revolution, about change, about fixing the system. But at the same time, they hold this paradoxical belief that capitalism isn't a good system, but it's the only system we've got. They dream of a better future, of transformation, but in reality, this hope is false hope. It's like a dog chasing its own tail. And when the dog actually catches it, it has no idea what to do with it. He then goes on to make some of his controversial but very interesting points about religion. In The Courage of Hopelessness, Slavoj Žižek explores religion not as a mere belief system, but as a symbolic and ideological structure deeply embedded in the modern world. Rather than dismissing religion as irrational, Žižek argues that it plays a crucial role in shaping how individuals and societies confront suffering, meaning, justice, and freedom, particularly in the context of late capitalism's moral and existential void. Žižek begins by challenging the liberal notion that religion can simply be replaced by science or secular rationality. Drawing on Lacanian psychoanalysis, he contends that religion operates at a structural level. Even in secular societies, its rituals and myth provide social cohesion and unconscious meaning. People often participate in religious practices, not out of personal belief, but because the ritual matters symbolically, a phenomenon Žižek calls belief through the other, or sometimes he refers to this as the big other. One of Žižek's key points about Christianity is tied to the moment when Jesus is crucified, particularly when he cries out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" or "Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani." For Žižek, this moment represents a profound shift in the concept of divinity. Traditionally, it has been interpreted as Jesus in his human form expressing the depth of his suffering. However, Žižek offers a different reading. He sees it as the moment when God himself, through Jesus, is acknowledging abandonment. It's as though God experiences the absence of God. The moment on the cross is central to understanding Christianity's relationship with atheism. He claims that God's abandonment of Jesus is symbolic of a deeper truth, the death of God, or the collapse of the traditional, omnipotent, all-controlling divine figure seen in the Old Testament. In this sense, Christianity itself contains the seed of atheism. This is why he says that to become a true atheist, one has to go through Christianity, because Christianity, in its core narrative, involves God's self-negation. So where does false hope or the courage of hopelessness come in? Žižek is essentially saying that when God abandons us, we shouldn't stand by and wait for better days or for God to come and save us. We shouldn't hold on to false hope. True change begins with accepting reality as it is and responding to it with honesty. So on to the next matter, terrorism. Well, this is obviously a very difficult and multifaceted topic to talk about, so I will now proceed to sum it up as best I can. At its core, what is terrorism? It's when people use violence to send a message. It's often religious, but there are many other reasons, especially when we talk about domestic and international terrorism. But in any case, if we look past the hysteria and panic, rightfully so, we should ask the question, what leads people to act out in this way? Why can't they just present the problems in a calm, orderly fashion? Well, it's similar to the bully on the school grounds. When you come home and cry to your mom about this bully, she might say one of two things. Scenario one. She says, next time, take your scissors and stab him in the neck, or something like that. Or she might say, darling, there's probably a reason why he's acting the way he is. Maybe things at home aren't as good. Or maybe he's just jealous of you because you are doing so well in school and he isn't. Or something to that extent. He says that we can't just say they're all evil and move on. We need to look at how the world treats poor countries, how unfair life can be, and how that unfairness can push people to do terrible things. For instance, take the invasion of Iraq. Please keep in mind, I'm no expert on this matter. But the US basically destroyed their country for what seems like no clear reason, and left their economy in ruins. Now, the people are left with nothing but anger and resentment, which can lead to immigration issues and even acts of hate. Žižek wants us to think more deeply, not just about stopping the bad guys, but about creating a fairer world so fewer people feel driven towards hate and hurting others. The populist temptation. Imagine someone promises to fix all your problems very quickly. They say, trust me, not the experts. That's what populism is, when a leader claims to speak for the people and blames everything on the bad elite or the outsiders. Populism is often described as a very thin ideology, but nonetheless, it serves as the foundation for many political movements. It's based on the us versus them mentality. We must remember that in politics, or more precisely when it comes to politicians, the only thing that truly matters is your vote. How they get your vote becomes secondary, and this often leads them to say whatever is necessary to win it. These statements are frequently exaggerated or distortions of the truth. Their words can sound exciting and powerful, but Žižek warns that this is dangerous. Why? Because real problems like jobs, money, and healthcare are hard to fix. Populist leaders often say what people want to hear without offering real solutions. Žižek warns that this kind of rhetoric can lead to unfair treatment of others, like immigration, and all this can turn into hate. He's not saying that regular people are wrong to be angry. He agrees that many things in society are unfair, but he argues that we should be careful about who we trust and to think more deeply about how to fix problems instead of falling for easy answers. What I always find very interestingly about this is that all this can lead to very strange contradictions. For instance, people might claim that Mexicans are lazy, even though they play a crucial role in the labor force, especially in hard physical jobs like bricklaying. So then you get a lot of jokes about Mexicans being lazy, and also a lot of jokes about Mexicans being very hard workers, which is odd. So to end things off, this book was written in 2017, which is some time back now. That is why there are some political topics and events that were more relevant to the time. But I actually think that this idea of the courage to be hopeless is so much more useful if we were to use it in our own personal lives. For instance, as mentioned, people use religion to comfort themselves, to give themselves hope. But our attempt to comfort ourselves is the actual thing keeping us from solving the problems because they believe the big other will fix it for us. As a child, if I were to ponder over my future, I would always end my future hopes with "Eendag as ek groot is," which translates to "one day when I'm grown up." And this is quite a ubiquitous phenomenon around Afrikaans people. But now you'll find grown-ups in conversation saying the exact same thing. And these are men of 40 and 50 years of age. They lack the courage to be hopeless and admit that they have no plan to achieve what they want, and that one day things will sort themselves out and they will get what they want. And this is exactly what is keeping us from progressing, because we lack the courage to be hopeless.